Chris Broussard back with us. Chris, you surprised the Clippers fired Doc Rivers?
Only because of his stature within the organization and because of his relationship with Steve Ballmer. That was it. Performance-wise, how could you be surprised? It was essentially, and I'm a guy that picked Doc to win the championship when he first got there with Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and then this year, of course. So I expected a lot, but let's keep it real. It was essentially 7 years of underachievement. I know there were injuries to Chris Paul and Blake Griffin at untimely spots in the playoffs, but they never got past the second round. You had a championship contending roster, and it wasn't just the stars. You had great role players, and they never got past the second round. I thought Doc got out-coached by Rick Carlisle in the Dallas series. I thought he got out-coached by Mike Malone in the Denver series. We know he's the only coach ever to lose 3-1 series leads. And this year, I was talking to some people, close to the situation about this. And as I said, they kind of backed me up. The Clippers' problem was they had this arrogance, this sense of entitlement this season that they could just turn it on and turn it off. And Doc allowed that. Doc is, a guy that obviously players look up to. He's been a great leader, but he allowed that culture to fester and could do nothing to change it. And so 7 years, you can't get mad at an organization for moving on after 7 years of basic underachievement.
Broussard, I got a question for you. There are times when organizations move on from coaches against the wishes of their superstar, but it's rare. When the Bucks moved on from Jason Kidd, Giannis famously was very upset, but they also knew Giannis was young and years away from free agency, so they were going to have time to be able to fix it if Giannis got mad. I haven't heard anything on this.
Steph and Mark Jackson.
Sure, that's a great example. But typically, they run these types of things by their star, and certainly if the star is a year from free agency. Do you think Ballmer could have or would have done this without either Kawhi requesting it in the exit interview, or, and I know you don't the exit interview with the owner, but requesting it to him directly, or right, without Kawhi giving it the okay if Ballmer was leaning this way and running it by Kawhi? Or do you think Ballmer just unilaterally would do it without consulting Kawhi when Kawhi can walk in a year?
I definitely don't think Kawhi requested it, but I would think, and I don't know for sure, I'll try to find this out, I would think that they'd run it by him. And Kawhi was probably like, he's the type of guy that's like, whatever, you guys do what you got to do. Like, I think he's going to show up and play for whoever's there. Now, we all know that Doc Rivers was a big reason he wanted to go to the Clippers. And he told Doc, I want to play for you. But he's been there for a year. And he saw that they just weren't as good as they should have been. And some of that's on Kawhi, too. We're not exonerating him.
Yes.
But my guess is that they ran it by Kawhi, and he was probably like, look, it's up to you guys, whatever. But he showed them it's not like I'm not going to play next year. I'm not going to be into it next year. I'm not going to hold it against you if you move on from Doc.
So, Broussard, do you think that we talk so much about the culture of the Clippers and the motivation needs to change for these players, and you talked about how they're a little lackadaisical. Do you think that's a strike against Sam Cassell and Ty Lue that were part of that? And do you think that means that the Clippers need to go outside of the organization to find their person?
I don't, because remember, Ty Lue was there with David Blatt, and they were having issues in Cleveland with David Blatt, obviously, and then he moved in and they win the championship. So when you're an assistant coach, you don't set the culture. I mean, you obviously have relationships with the players and everything, and you're a part of it, but you can't overstep the coach. And especially with Ty Lue and Sam Cassell, who have great respect for Doc Rivers, there is no way they were going to overstep Doc's bounds. And so I don't hold that against them. You're right, Wilds, in that sometimes it is hard. I've talked to coaches about this. moving over those 12 inches, right, from the assistant coach's seat to the head coach's seat, sometimes it can be challenging because it's a different dynamic with the players now. But I think Ty Lue can manage it. I do think those guys respect him. He's got a great relationship with Jerry West and his family, so that'll help. West, obviously, a consultant with the Clippers. I think it should be Ty Lue. Look, I like Mark Jackson. I'd love for him to get a shot. If you want to throw Jeff Van Gundy in there, give him, maybe interviewing for sure. But I think Ty Lue gets this, and I think they need to move swiftly because he's obviously in the running for other jobs.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.